Hello, friends. Ash here. Welcome back to Gents. Guess what time it is? You guessed correctly. It's Elixir time. Stop me if you've heard that before. Don't worry, it's not the last time you'll hear it either. Gucci Guilty Elixir. When that one is available, I'll get that too. It's the year of the Elixir, man. Today, it is Boss Bottled Elixir. That's right, it's Hugo Boss's turn to pop out their Elixir flanker of choice. Here it is. Some interesting things about this one. They've switched up the presentation a little bit, some differences on the bottle here that we'll take a look at. Some little changes, some little swapperoos. This one I bought from makeup.com. I think it's makeup.com is the name of it. They have it there. By the time this video comes out, maybe it's available other places. I'm assuming it's gonna hit stores all over the place pretty soon if it hasn't already when you're watching this. So I'll try to have this linked in the description below. Feel free to check it out down there, and feel free to check out these codes. Check them out. Get pumped up for codes. It'd be a little dangerous there. So this one actually arrived in the mailbox today, and obviously you can see it's already opened up here because again, I got no patience. If you are on TikTok though, I'm on TikTok at Gents Scents, so check me out there. I actually did a very short first impression of this fragrance where I ripped it open. So if you want to see the first impression, it's on my TikTok. This is a little more in detail, as YouTube tends to be. Kind of hard to be going into much detail when you're basically talking for 30 seconds because people have no attention span. They're just on the old talk of ticks. Let's go ahead and check out this presentation, guys, and then we'll start talking about the scent. Not Hugo Boss the scent of Boss Bottled Elixir. Which gets me thinking, the scent Elixir, it's probably coming next year, isn't it? So here is the front of the bottle. You can see there it says Boss Bottled Elixir Parfum Intense. I got myself the 50 ml size. And the font has changed a bit where it says Boss. Much more noticeable on the bottle. I'll show you here in a moment. It says Boss on top of the box, a little stripe going down the side with the QR code. On the back, you have some notes and ingredients. They are keeping it very simple on the back of the box here. Top of incense, a mid of vetiver, a base of cedar. On the bottom, your badge code and barcode. My badge code, a little bit hard to read, is 3191. And here is the bottle. Again, it says Boss Bottled Elixir right across the front, and it becomes very prominent, the change to the font where it says Boss there. So just to drive that home, here is Boss Bottled Eau de Parfum next to the new Boss Bottled Elixir. You can clearly see the differences there between the two bottles in terms of font. So they've kind of gotten rid of that classic Boss Bottled font style and gone with this one. I don't know, I might be a little partial to the old one, but that's how it goes, isn't it? People never want things to change. Another change is on top of the cap where it says Boss. That is also a departure from how it used to look. There is a look at the Eau de Parfum and Elixir side by side, so you can see that a little bit more clearly. Then on the bottom, you have a sticker with your badge code. And as always with these bottles, the cap clicks into place. And you know what comes next. We're gonna go ahead and spray it out so we can check out the atomizer. So here we go. Now, this note breakdown on the back of the box is missing some stuff. It is still a simple note breakdown. It's not really one of those major ones that gives you all kinds of stuff, but it's missing half the notes. So if we're going for the full note breakdown, it has incense and cardamom in the top, and it has vetiver along with patchouli in the mid. And then in the base, it does indeed have cedarwood, but it also has labdanum. So they basically took half the notes and got rid of them as far as the back of the box goes, and they kept the other half, which is not a big deal, but it is maybe like a slight pet peeve because you could have fit it in there. You put incense essence, vetiver essence, cedarwood essence, drop the essence, put the other note. Not a big deal, but still. Now I have to say with Boss Bottled Elixir, when you spray it on the tester strip, it is different than off your skin. I know that's not really any late breaking news. It's very common for fragrances to smell different on skin versus a tester strip, but this one is markedly different, so keep that in mind. Off a tester strip, it has a little more freshness, more of like a zingy sort of sweetness in there off the top. When you spray it on skin, it's not quite as zingy. It doesn't have as much freshness, which This isn't really a fresh fragrance, but still, you get a little more of that off the tester strip. Now, I know guys, I know, and you know that we've just been inundated with Elixir flankers this year to the point that it's almost getting tiresome. It's like, is this all that exists? And it does really make me think back to when all the different fragrance houses were popping out oud fragrances. If you were around back then, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Every single house was dropping oud fragrances. It was just every flanker for like a year there, oud, that was it. And it got to the point where you were like, dude, there are other things than this, man. Like, give me something. It's like that this year with Elixirs, only Elixir is just a name. Like, Elixir is not a note, like oud. So at least there's some, you know, difference between the fragrances. And a lot of those Elixir fragrances have gotten a decent amount of hype. But to be fair, that's because they're good. Now, Boss Bottled is a line to me that a lot of times doesn't really grab my attention. They seem to put out fragrances that are solid more often than not, but maybe not amazing. Not the type of fragrance you write home about. So I entered this with trepidation, but cautious optimism that Boss Bottled Elixir would be a step up. And first impression wise, it is. I really, really dig this. So it's got just a little hint of sweetness. Not too much. You do get that cardamom off the top, a little spiciness. The incense is readily apparent as soon as you spray it on. And that incense lingers. It lingers into the dry down. So they put it as a top note, which typically when you see incense as a top note, you're like, what is this? You screwed up here or something? Because typically, you know, it's listed as a base note, but I think it's properly done here because you pick it up immediately. But then it has that staying power of a base note. So that incense, it's just there, man. It's there for the whole ride. Now, while it's not as zingy, lively off the top when you spray it on skin versus a tester strip, it still has a little bit of that going on, and it's mainly the way that cardamom comes across. So you get a little sweetness from that off the top, a little warm, spicy sweetness, super appealing. And as it dries down, it kind of hands that baton off to the labdanum. So you've got sweetness here the whole way through as well, but it's in the background. It never steps into the foreground, and this is going to be different from most other elixirs that have come out this year in that way, because a lot of elixir fragrances have been really sweet and very strong with the sweetness. This one reins that in quite a bit. To me, Boss Bottled Elixir comes across, you know, really kind of classy, but then at the same time kind of cozy, like the type of fragrance I would wear around the holidays. And I would never say that this is particularly close to Sauvage Elixir, but there are little bits and pieces that you can pick out of this fragrance as it dries down that you may be able to reconcile with the scent profile of Sauvage Elixir. Again, just to drive that home, they're two totally different fragrances, but I think that this would appeal to a lot of people that do like that scent. This one doesn't smell quite as throwbackish in a modern way that Sauvage Elixir does, but they do overlap a little bit as far as what they're doing, kind of the general scent profile as it dries down, not really in the opening. And so I think they'd have some common appeal there. Now, it's the first day I've gotten this in. I've only worn it today, and I did give it a decent amount of sprays, but I've got to say, it's got the performance that you would expect from an Elixir fragrance. Can pick it up easily, projects really well. It's lasted a long time off my skin. So that's a really big plus as well. Like I said, kind of, you know, holiday fragrance for me, so fall, winter time, which you would have already anticipated that, I'm sure. And it does lean more toward evening use than daytime use as well. This one pretty much right from the get-go, hitting you with that incense off the bat, you know. It's not really a fragrance that you would think of as like, you know, a daytime scent you're gonna spray on and head out on your day and go to the gym and stuff. It's not that. Oh yeah, and is it similar to Boss Bottled, the original Eau de Toilette? No, it's not. Whether you view that as a good thing or a bad thing, it just doesn't remind me of the EDT at all. The original Boss Bottled Intense, rest in peace, it doesn't smell like those at all. So this is one of those flankers where it's an elixir in a line, but it doesn't smell like what came before it, which, to be fair, Sauvage Elixir does not smell like Sauvage Eau de Toilette, nor does Boss Bottled Elixir smell like Boss Bottled Eau de Toilette. So I've been loving this thing all day. It is not at all as sweet as most of the things hitting the market, as I've said before, and that makes it more appealing to me. You get that sort of zingy, almost carbonated sweetness off the top, but it's still not overdone, and then that lingering sweetness in the background, but it is so much less than the vanilla overload scents that we've been getting, which to be fair, I like those too. So I've been loving it, as I said, all day, really digging it. Had my wife smell it, and I really wasn't too sure if she would go for it, but she did. She thought it smelled awesome too. So Boss Bottled Elixir, I really dig it. Extremely solid, better than I expected. I was anticipating this one to be, we'll say, one of the weaker, worse off Elixir fragrances, if you want to call it that. But it seems like most of these brands are putting their best foot forward. I dig it. If you can find this at discounters at some point for what Hugo Boss Bottled fragrances usually go for, at that point, this is gonna be one of those crazy good deals. One of those fragrances that pops up in a million lists about like best bang for your buck type scents. So there we go, Boss Bottled Elixir. You did good, Hugo Boss, proud of you. We'll see how Gucci does when that new Guilty Elixir finally pops up and I can get my hands on it. Nah. Creepy. So there we go, Boss Bottled Elixir. Big thumbs up for me. Thank you guys for hanging with me. Stay safe out there. I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys later.